on the 9th of April. It's a Tuesday. It's 10:04 in the morning here in Israel. And please do not post in the chat for 2 or 3 minutes so I can get my posts up at the top. So I repeat, please don't post in the chat for 2 or 3 minutes until I can get my posts up. Okay, we got sound and picture. I'm putting my posts up. Just hold off a minute for posting in the chat. Well, that didn't work. I gotta repost it. I gotta figure out how to get it down too. Oh, I see the trouble. Well, I can't get this down. All right. Problems with YouTube. Almost done, guys. Give me another minute. Okay, you can post in the chat if you like. I put some typo type postings up there and I don't have the ability to remove them. Oh well, what are you gonna do? All right. Let me get some of my tomato juice and we'll get started. People are coming in. Okay. I'm going to cover the war and what Netanyahu's really up to with Iran, but I'll do it after the Bible study. People like that better, okay? Netanyahu's trying to get America and Iran to fight with each other, and I'll elaborate on this in a little bit after the Bible study. Okay. So I don't have any prayer requests today. Let's go into the book of Obadiah, which is a one-chapter book, not a big chapter at that, and see what we get. It'll be interesting. Okay, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith Adonai Yehovah, concerning Edom, which would be either northwest Saudi Arabia or Jordan. We have heard a rumor from Yehovah, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise you, and let us arise up against her in battle. So who is this ambassador sent to the heathen? probably coming from Israel. I don't think in the old days they would do that. I don't know for sure, but let's keep reading. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Sounds like us. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Sounds like us. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt, we keep weapons in clefts of the rock, caves, right? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith Jehovah. Now this might be talking about the nations surrounding us. If thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat the bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So this would be referencing Jordan and or part of Saudi Arabia. Not exactly Israel, of course. The men that were at peace with thee would be Israel. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee, that they may eat thy bread, and have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding. Now that's how I'm interpreting it right now. Let's keep reading. Shall I not in that day, saith Jehovah, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and understanding out of the mound of Esau? And thy mighty men, O Taman. Now Taman means south. It is frequently thought to be Yemen. Actually, modern Israelites refer to the name of the country Yemen. The Yemen is an English name, is Taman in Hebrew, but it could also be Sheba, which geographically is pretty similar anyway. Shall be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. Well, it sounds like our lovely neighbors. So is it hard today to understand thy mighty men, O Timon, which would be the Houthi rebels in Yemen, to be dismayed to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off. Now, it doesn't exactly say they're cut off right yet. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob shall cover thee. Jacob descending from Aaron, and Hagar, the Arabs descending from Aaron, also different mothers. Hagar, mother of the Arabs, and Sarah, mother of the Israelites. Against thy brother Yaakov is the Hebrew word for Jacob. Shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Well, okay, so it sounds like there's going to be a lot of cutting off in these Arab states warring against us. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was at one of them, was like one of them. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger, in exile, I guess I would say something like that. Neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. That's past tense. Neither shouldst thou have spoken proudly. That's in the past, I should say, not past tense. That happened already. Neither should thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress against Israel. Thou shouldst not have entered into, you see, the Lord chastens those he loves. He doesn't love Esau, so he doesn't chasten them, so they get proud. And then they come after Israel, and they start to hate Jehovah, and then he destroys them. Thou shouldst not, it's not that complicated. Thou shouldst not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldst not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the days of their calamity, in the day of their calamity. So they were furthering the affliction that God put on his people. And I'll show you the scripture for that momentarily. Neither shouldst thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape. So they were preventing them from escaping. Neither shouldst thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. For the day of Jehovah is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Now, this is referencing the day of the Lord, which is your Gog and Magog, Zechariah 14, Ezekiel 8 to 11, and the whole book of Joel. It's not right. It's not coming up on us for a good 60-something years. Upon all the heathen as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thy own head. For as you have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. That's the cup of the wrath of the Lord, the cup of trembling. This is what he's talking about. He's not talking about pouring him a glass of Mondavi wine or something like that. But I'm making a joke, but upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Yaakov shall possess their possessions. So we're going to get into who the house of Yaakov is, Joseph. And the house of Yaakov shall be a fire. Now, does this sound like the two witnesses burning them up on the right hand and the left hand when they lay siege to Jerusalem? And the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. That means they're the fuel getting burned up in the fire, we might say, right? Or the combustibles being combusted. And they shall kindle in them, and kindle in them is burn them up, and devour them, which could mean burn them up, or, incinerate them, you could say something like that, in context. And there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Jehovah hath spoken it. So, what does this sound like? Let's take a look. In that day I will make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour all the people round about on the right hand and on the left hand, and Jerusalem shall remain still in its own place, even in Jerusalem. Well, how about that? Sounds like we got some kind of match going on, don't you think? The house of Yaakov shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. Now, this could lead one to believe that the two olive trees that bring the oil, the clarified olive oil, into the seven lampstands, which represent, for lack, just to use this bad word, the churches, which you could derive from Revelation 1 and 2, with Yeshua walking amongst the candlesticks. So that would tell us, since the two witnesses are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks, although they could be the pipes actually bringing the oil in to the candlesticks, is maybe more accurately translated. The golden pipes, but they are bringing the anointing into the body of believers. But there's two olive trees, so we could say one's Judah and one's Israel, the 10 tribes, but maybe based on Obadiah, we could say one's from the house of Joseph and the other's from the house of Yaakov. Joseph is Joseph, there's no J in Hebrew. So you have Joseph and Yaakov. We'll get into that, but it gets a little thick, and I'm not going to go sit here and put the roller on the dough for hours and stuff, because I'm going to give you the conclusion of where this takes us, which is the two sticks in one hand. So we know the ending, okay? So relax. It gets a little thick. All right. There shall not be any remaining in the house of Esau, for Jehovah hath spoken. Remember, I told you that Jerusalem is like the tip of his finger, and the West Bank wraps around it like that. And the West Bank is where there's a lot of trouble for Jordan pushing into. So to lay siege, which is an encampment, an encirclement, the surrounding, right? Like the Romans had what was called siege works. So when they came upon a walled city, they couldn't get in. So they had siege works, which were battering rams that were made out of a big tree, maybe with a metal, if this is the tip of the tree, they had a metal cap on it, a big heavy metal cap, sometimes with spiked point, and they would swing it on ropes and ram it continually into the wall. And they're not talking about a tree that was 6 inches by 12 feet. You're talking about a tree that's maybe 18, 24 inches by 20 feet or 30 feet or something, a big, heavy tree. Maybe the sucker weighed more than a ton, and they would swing it on heavy ropes and chains from the siege work where it was suspended, and it would get it, maybe they'd get it going 15 or 20 feet. They'd have 30, 40 guys swinging it, and boom, they hit the wall with this big metal spike on the tip, or a round metal bulbous tip, and it would start, demolishing the wall. And the enemy soldiers would be on the top of the wall, and they'd be shooting arrows down, throwing rocks, spears, hot water, boiling oil, hot tar, anything they could think of. So the Romans would build coverings on this siege work out of wood covered with like animal skin or even thin metal, maybe, I don't know, probably animal skins. So the liquids that came down would roll off and not get the guys underneath. And of course, that would shelter them from arrows and spears. So they called that a siege work, siege work. So they would get these things. They had multiples of these things. They didn't just come with one. They maybe came with 15 or 20, you know. And they would take these things with the covering on them. The soldiers could advance to the wall without getting hit with arrows and spears. And they would start a battering ram, basically, you could call it, but a real heavy duty, sophisticated thing. And they would start demolishing the wall, and it would work. And maybe they had to be there if the wall was really heavily fortified and thick. They might have to be there a few days doing it, but usually it'd be hours. And then once they got a hole in the wall or several holes in the wall, they would, you know, when it was big enough, they'd rush the soldiers in. And then it got pretty bloody because the guys that were on the wall throwing stuff down on the outside of the wall would turn around and shoot arrows and spears or whatever at the guys going in the wall. Then they also had catapults where they put big boulders and they would fling them at the wall and over the wall into the city just to create all kinds of turmoil. And they also had, they'd put balls of grass or wheat or wood or whatever with tar on it, and they would light it on fire just before the catapult launched it. So when it hit inside the city, it would be a fireball, and with tar and pitch, it was difficult to put out, you know. So they would start burning the city from the, you know, in the inside as well. And they had other crazy things. They had archers that would stand back behind some sort of covering, and they had big bows, like 5-6 foot bows, and they would launch massive amounts of arrows over the wall into the city all day long, you know. So people would be afraid to go outside, and it would create distress and turmoil, and the walls being knocked down, and, you know, of course, their ultimate goal, the Romans would say, surrender, and we won't kill you, or surrender and we'll kill you with the sword quickly instead of crucifying you. They had all kinds of sicko stuff they did, you know. And I imagine sometimes it worked, and if the people submitted early on, the Romans would be pretty happy to just take them over, move in and occupy the country with a modest, they would demilitarize the army, take all the weapons away, and if you had swords or spears or bows and arrows or any of that stuff, as a civilian, they probably would crucify you or burn you alive or cut your arms off, or who knows what they would do. And then they didn't need a lot of Roman troops to occupy the walled city because they would be militarized, so they didn't have to worry. So they'd leave a good amount of troops there to protect things. And they would bring in a team of big shot political guys that would occupy the palaces and the mansions that were there before, and they would run the government. And they would leave the people pretty much alone as long as the taxes were paid. They didn't have a police department, they had the Romans. And the Romans, you know, they were corrupt, of course, but they kept civil order. They were good at it, actually. and they, they would, criminals would be burned alive, crucified, all kinds of things. They had a heavy duty crime deterrent, like you read in New York City, people walk around and they punch women in the head, in the face. So if the Romans were dealing with a guy like this, they would ask the woman, to reenact where the guy punched her, and they'd figure out if it was the right hand or the left hand. They cut his hand off. you know, I mean, that would be one simple solution. They hold him down, boom, and that's it. It's over. You know, and they didn't take the time and trouble to put someone like that in prison. They would consider that a moron, and they'd say, well, if he does it again, we'll cut his other hand off. Thieves would, I don't know what they did. They'd whip them, or they would make them go to a work prison. They were, cruel to people that broke their law and order. They didn't play footsie with them. If you got caught with weapons and you weren't one of them, well, they'd probably kill you. Burn your house down or take your house, kill your family. They did anything. They were like the Gestapo, very similar. This is nothing new. And they would run the country, and that's what they were doing to Israel. And they let them. You want your temple, you want to worship your God, go ahead. You want to worship another God, go ahead. We don't care. You want to worship our gods, fine. You don't, that's fine too. Pay your taxes. Pay your taxes, don't rise up against us, and we're happy, and we'll let you be happy. So they lived okay. The Romans let them live okay. As long as the tax revenue came in and there was no attempt to overthrow the Romans let them live comfortably. Today in the world, the people are not aware of this, but they're living like captives to Rome. They're not, but I mean, it's not a literalization, but that's how they live. I'll explain it to you. They never get to own a house like an indentured servant, a serf, or a slave. Very few do. And do they really own their house? No. Let's take America. Let's say you actually pay your mortgage off. Let's say you pay it off, okay? And you get a lien release, and now you have clear title in your name. Great. Every year you still have to pay property tax. So if you're unable to pay the property tax, they auction your house and take it away from you, sell it, pay the taxes off, and give you the difference. So do you really ever own your house? Never. Never. Never ever. They've created a debtor class by using phony money. So you can't play the inflation game and the recession game unless you have a phony money system with the Federal Reserve Bank that makes money out of thin air, okay, and then takes it away whenever they want. So you can't have that with gold and silver. It's impossible. It wouldn't work. So, they have you over a barrel. And many people don't even have a house. They don't have an agricultural animal. They don't know what it's like to go out and have 1 or 2 dozen chickens and get up in the morning and pick up some eggs to eat that day. They have no idea about that. None. Nothing. They don't know what it's like to go have a cow and milk the cow and get fresh milk, or get goats and milk the goats, make goat milks into cheese. They don't have any idea. They don't have any animals. Nobody's going to come and slay their agricultural animals because they don't have any. What do they own? They own nothing. They own furniture, clothing, a few electrical appliances. They don't own anything. They don't get paid with real money. They get paid with fictional money. script money in every single country in the world. And they control how much money there is, and they have unlimited, the leaders of the government. And they charge you interest. They make this phony money, and then you borrow it, and well, the government borrows it from a central bank, and then the government has to pay interest to the central bank. It's a sham. And then you got to pay taxes to support the interest. This is Satan running the world cruelly. And then the people that serve him have horrible lives, and they accumulate more money than they know what to do with. But they have no peace, no happiness, no rest, nothing. But they have the finest material things on the earth, which you'll soon realize is garbage compared to what we're going to have when the Lord raises up Israel. So the people are slaves. They work and they work and they work and they work, and then they get, in America, a Social Security, which is very small and very difficult to even get by on, and it's always been that way. And they get, what do they call it, Medicaid, where they can get medical coverage, but it's crap. It's not good medical coverage. To get good medical coverage, they have to buy what's called supplemental, which someone told me about a year or 2 years ago. It runs about $750 for, I think, one person, or maybe it's a couple, I don't know. And that supplements your Medicaid so you could have good coverage. Otherwise, you have some thing you're dying from, and they tell you, well, your insurance doesn't pay for this. So what we can do is make you comfortable. We'll give you morphine every day until you die, you know. They take better care of the people that sneak into the country than the people that lived and worked in the country their whole life. That's today. So you're just slaves to them, don't you see it? They own the factories you work in. They buy the things that are at the base level, the root level of the economy, like they deal in copper, steel, you know, iron ore, brass, bronze, lumber. They have millions of acres of trees, and they make paper products. They do plastic, they do aluminum, they do rubber. They make things like automobiles, airplanes. They have hotels and resorts, and they create a lot of distractions for the people to keep them amused. Television was the big one. They never had a grip on people like they did when they started television right after World War II. And I'm small enough, old enough rather, remember, you know, the TV sets were garbage in the 50s, the early 50s. They were generally small. Some of them had a big magnifying glass in front of them. They had a single paper speaker with a magnet in the back for sound. It was scratchy. You had an antenna on the roof, or rabbit ears, which were really weak. Antennas on the roof weren't half bad. And, you know, in New York City, you've got channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 13. You got 7 channels, and 5 of them were really decent. Okay, and it was black and white. And a lot of people didn't get that involved in television. But the majority of the people did. And they were smart. They created variety shows like Ed Sullivan. And they were predecessors to Ed Sullivan. And they would have different acts on. They would have trained seals with trained monkeys. They'd have some famous singer. maybe an orchestra. They'd have magicians, comedians, all kinds of things to make it interesting during the show. And then they started getting advertisers, and the advertisers, of course, were Satan bots, just like the owners of the networks and the TV shows. And they started understanding that if they have the main actors on the show promote their products, they would do good. So you had Groucho Marx in the very early 50s, I think. He went from a radio show to a TV show around 1953. I think it was 53. And the DeSoto cars backed him. DeSoto's a defunct car manufacturer. It was a middle of the road. It wasn't like Buick or Cadillac. It was like Pontiac or Oldsmobile. You know, it wasn't like Chevrolet. Or Plymouth. It was higher. They made a pretty decent car for many years. So they would, Groucho would promote the DeSoto. He would be seen driving them sometimes, and things like that. Of course, they'd give him a couple for free just so he showed himself driving them around Beverly Hills. And back then, they didn't have such excessive wealth. Their entertainers, they lived in modest houses. Their houses were usually, they weren't small. They were usually about 3,000 or 4,000, sometimes 5,000 square feet. But a lot of them were just 3,000, 4,000, maybe 5,000 square feet. And they had them on 1 or 2 acres or a half acre even. And they didn't have fences and gates and guards and alarm systems. You were able to pull up on the lawn in front of their house and walk up and ring the bell. Now, normally they had a living maid or a butler or somebody, a groundskeeper would tell you that they're not available or not here or something, But they didn't have, mansion-esque houses or estates. Now, some of them did. They were buying multiple acres of land in Hollywood Hills, Beverly Hills. They were living in Malibu. They were living in the different expensive areas, and they were building large houses by the water and all of this stuff, but not like they do today. It was nothing like that, And they used to walk around the streets. They'd go shopping. People would see them all the time. They'd drive their own car, park their car. They had convertibles and bought nice cars. They got them. Everybody saw them. They went to the stores. They went to the supermarkets. They went to restaurants. It was pretty normal, They had a restaurant, the Brown Derby. I was in it once. It was a restaurant built like a derby hat made out of brown. It was like a hat. And you go in there, and there was some star in there when I went in there, which was in the 70s. I don't know who the heck the star was. But they were there, So these people are sort of in between the slaves or the serfs and the elite. They're members of Satan's gang, and they get a lot, but they don't get anywhere near the money as the people that own, Reynolds Aluminum, Alcoa Aluminum, DeSoto, Ford, Chevy, Westinghouse, the electricity, electrical devices, the people that make the military equipment, the planes, the tanks, Boeing. These people developed massive amounts of wealth. The average person in America has no idea what it's like for people to have incomes of $2, $3, $4, $5 million a week. People that make $250,000 a year in America think they're doing good. Okay? These people go on a vacation and they rent the yacht for a week. They'll drop $1 or $2 million on a vacation for a week. They buy $400,000-$500,000 cars, and they have multiple of them. Jets for tens of millions of dollars. You know, if you make $250,000 a year in America, you're upper lower class. Really. If you make $1 million or $2 million a year, you're probably in middle class. If you make, 100, 200 million a year, you're probably in lower upper class. And if you're making a few hundred million a year, then you're one of them. But all the one of them's are Satanists. They don't let you in. They won't do business with you. You see, the other corporations and businesses will only do business with another Satanist. They just won't do business with you. So how are you going to get big? You have to get into some type of a niche business where you can make and sell a product or a service to the common people that are not Satanists who will buy from you. And then they'll go after you. They'll sue you. They'll put government regulators on you. They'll compete against you. They'll copy your products. Anything. They'll get rid of you. Anything. That's what Satan's gimmick to his followers are. Look, I'm God. Look at all the money you have, So the television was the big influence on ruining America and Europe and Asia. The advertisers realized that they could get away with anything, and they started selling things. There was a big product in the 50s called Geritol. It was supposed to relieve tired blood. What the heck is tired blood? The government would shut them down today if they tried selling a product to resolve tired blood. And they sold tons of it. They sold it like crazy. Then they started telling the people they need to buy pet evaporated milk. What do you need evaporated milk for? I don't understand. Then they started with different shampoos and different toothpastes. And it just went on and on and on and on. And it was the television that reduced these people to consumerism. Although they did it reasonably well previously with ads in magazines, newspapers, and they had the radio. If you ever want to try something interesting, go to YouTube and look up on the old-time radio, Philip Marlowe. He was a detective that they must have made hundreds of radio shows about it. And see how clever they are. They don't have curse words. They don't have any nudity. Of course, it's a radio show. And see how clever they were and how they can capture your interest without a picture. It was truly interesting to see that and listen to it. And they're good. They've got violence, smoking, and drinking, and adultery, but, they're not as bad as television. See, in the old days, the poor people didn't own any land. So the rich people gave them a cottage on the land, and they would work the animals and the crops and then give a large percentage of it to the guy that owned the land. Today, they have you work in their factories and do work. Then they take the work product and sell it to you at a great profit. And they don't give you any gold or silver or anything real. They just give you imperial credits, like the Star Wars movie. You just get credits, evidenced by a piece of paper. And that's all you get. And they bleed you dry. And then the economies collapse, and they start another one. All this is going to be over soon. People aren't going to live like this anymore. All right. So I'm back in Obadiah. Verse 20. And the captivity of this host, or army, of the children of Israel shall possess that of the Canaanites, even unto Zarephath, and the captivity of Jerusalem, which is in Sepharad, shall possess the cities of the south. And that would mean Yemen and Saudi Arabia. Unless he's referencing the south of Israel, which I don't think so. And saviors shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the Mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's. The judges would probably be the two witnesses. Esau is the eldest son of Isaac, and Rebekah the twin of Jacob. And he sold his birthright for food when he was hungry. And then the blessings went to Yaakov, Jacob, not him. So, let's break some stuff down. Let's go to Genesis 28. Right back to the beginning. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him, and charged him and said, remember it goes Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? And blessed him, and charged him and said unto him, thou shalt not take a wife of the daughter of Canaan. Arise, go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel. What's the word here? And that means God destroys, I believe. Thy mother's father, and take thee a wife from thence of the daughter of Laban, thy mother's brother. And God Almighty bless thee, and make thee fruitful, and multiply thee, that thou mayest be a multitude of people, and give thee the blessing of Abraham, to thee, and to the seed with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land wherein thou art a stranger, which God gave unto Abraham. And Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Padanaram, unto Laban, son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's and Esau's mother. When Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padanaram to take him a wife from thence, and that he blessed him, he gave him a charge, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughter of Canaan. And that Jacob obeyed his father and his mother, and was gone to Padanaram. And Esau, seeing that the daughters of Canaan pleased not Isaac his father, then went Esau unto Ishmael, and took unto the wives which he had Maalat, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebajoth, to be his wife. And Yaakov went out from Beersheba, and went towards Haran. And he lighted upon a certain place, and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place, and put them for his pillows, and lay down in that place. I imagine that he would use the stone as a pillow, and then put a robe or some clothing or garment on it, but maybe not, but I think he would. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it, and said, I am Jehovah Elohim of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, not sell it, give it. And to thy seed, again, promises to a seed of one, which is Yeshua. And it applies to all those in Yeshua. So the true Israel will be in Yeshua only. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth. We'll have many children. Thou shalt spread abroad to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south, and in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed, in him and his seed. And I just previously gave you a taste of why all the families of the earth are going to be blessed when all of Satan's kingdoms come down. I just gave you a crash course in how they're all slaves, basically. And behold, I am with thee, and will keep thee in all places whither thou goest, or where you go, and will bring thee again unto this land. For I will not leave thee until I have done that which I have spoken to thee. And Jacob awakened out of his sleep, and he said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I knew it not. And he was afraid and said, how dreadful is this place? This is none other but the house of God. Bethel, house of God. And this is the gate of heaven. And Yaakov rose up early in the morning and took the stone which he put for his pillow and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, house of God. Beit means house, El is God, Bethel. There's no TH sound in Hebrew. But the name of that city was called Luz at the first. And Yaakov vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way, that I go and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on. Raiment is clothes, and the word for bread is lechem, which is bread. So that I come again to my father's house in peace. Then shall Jehovah be my God. And I don't believe he ever married a Canaanite. And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give the tenth unto thee. So there's your tithing. So he was above and beyond the covetous that like to get fed and don't do offerings, of which there's so many. They don't even know they're covetous. Mammon is the root of all evil, and covetous is mammon. It's the same thing. It's based on mammon. Okay, so we're not done. Now we'll go to Genesis 32. I better take a look at the chat and make sure I don't have garbage to throw out. Russia, huh? Okay. You know, the chief's in distress out there. He's barking nonstop. Let me go get him in. I don't know what's going on, but he may need help. He's real old. This won't be but a minute or so. Okay. Genesis 32:1. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's host." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau, his brother, unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. That would be northwest Saudi Arabia or southwest Jordan. And he commanded them wait a minute, I lost my place. And he commanded them, saying, Thus shall you speak unto my Adon, my Lord minor Esau, thy servant Yaakov saith, shall you speak unto my Lord Esau, thy servant Yaakov saith thus, I have sojourned with Laban and stayed there until now. And I have oxen and asses, flocks and men servants and women servants, and I have sent to tell my Lord that I may find grace in thy sight. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. Then Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks and herds, the camels, into 2 bands, and said, If Esau come to the one company and smite it, then the other company which is left shall escape. So he was dividing up. So he figured, he didn't know the intentions of Esau. So if Esau killed one portion, the others would get away. And Yaakov said, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which saith unto me, Return unto thy country, to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I am become 2 bands, or 2 divisions. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the children. And thou sayest, I will surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered or for multitude. And he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came to his hand a present for Esau for his brother, 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milch camels with their colts, 40 kin, and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses and 10 foals. And he delivered them into the hand of his servant, every drove by themselves, and said unto his servant, Pass over before me, and put a space betwixt drove and drove. And he commanded the foremost, saying, When Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asketh thee, saying, Whose art thou? And whither goest thou? And whose are these before thee? Then thou shalt say, they are thy servant Jacob's. It's a present sent unto my lord Esau, and behold, also he is behind us. And so commanded he the second and the third and all that followed the droves. I guess his number 2 man and his number 3 man, I guess. Saying, on this manner shall you speak unto Esau when you find him, and say you moreover, behold, thy servant Yaakov is behind us, for he said, I will appease them with the present that goeth before me, and afterward I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept of me. So went the present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company. And he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Yabok. And he took them and sent them over the brook, and sent over that he had. And Yaakov was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, this is the angel, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. The hollow of the thigh is the femur bone, which is the longest bone in the body. It runs in the thigh, I guess from the hip down to the knee, and it's hollow. And he messed with the sinews, which I think is the cartilage. We'll keep reading. And he said, let me go, for the day breaketh. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, what is thy name? And he said, Jacob, or Yaakov. And he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God, and with men thou hast prevailed. Israel means God will prevail. And Yaakov asked him and said, tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, wherefore is it that thou dost ask after me? Why are you asking for my name? And he blessed him there. And Yaakov called the name of the place Peniel. There's a Peniel now. It's on the other side of the lake of the Galilee from me, near Mount Saith. I don't know if it's a real Peniel. It could be. For I have seen God face to face, and my life was preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, or they call it Penuel? No. It's different. One place is Peniel, and this place is Penuel. I don't know. The sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. He was limping. Therefore, the children of Israel eat not the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank. So I would speculate, not being a medical person, that the area that connects the bone to the hip bone was not correct anymore because the binding tissue was shrank. So I don't know much about people not eating that portion of thigh bone today. It's not written in Moses' law. I don't know what's up with that. Um, Jacob means serve God, basically. Yaakov, Yah is God's name. Okay. Israel, El is God's name. Got it? And that's why Yahweh means nothing. It doesn't mean a thing. People fall for that. So where does the tribe of Levi come from? There is no tribe of Jacob, really, and Levi comes as a son of Jacob. Joseph's two sons from Rachel, in English it's Rachel, were Manasseh and Ephraim. Okay? Each son began their own half tribe, so to speak, so their descendants made, like half tribes. Okay? The 12 tribes are as follows: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. When David was running Israel out of Syria, he was the southern tribe Judah. It was basically Judah and Benjamin, but they had the Levites with them. So when I say Judah consists of Judah and Levi, I also frequently say that the Levites with Judah are Judah's Levites, as to help you understand it. And there's some Benjamin, but there's not a lot of Benjamin. Okay, that's how I usually reference it for you. Now we'll go to Ezekiel 37:15. And, it gets a little confusing, and you'll see here it gets very unconfusing. Okay? The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and the children of Israel, his companions. So that means there's some children from the 10 tribes that stayed with Judah, traveled with Judah, etc. And they basically could be incorporated into Judah or not, or we'll have to learn how that develops as end times unfolds. Of course, there's indication that they stay with the tribe that they sojourn with, or travel with, live with. So one stick is Judah with the people from the other tribes that are with Judah, and take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim. And for all Israel, all the house of Israel's companions. Again, there was always a little bit of other tribes mixed in. And join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thy hand. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? Because it's confusing to follow this, it's difficult. Say unto them, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim. Ephraim generally means the 10 tribes that went into exile. And the tribes of Israel, his fellows. And will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand, and the stick whereupon thou writest shall be in thy hand before their eyes. And say unto them, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, the Goyim, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side and bring them into their own land, and I will make them. Now, take note for something that's going to come up soon. Bring them into their own land. That's Israel. The word for land here is not ha'eretz, it's adamah, which means the ground, the dirt, that kind of thing. New Jerusalem is not that. It comes down from heaven. And I will make them one nation in the land, upon the mountains of Israel. And one king shall be king to them all. And they shall be no more 2 nations, neither shall they be divided into 2 kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all the dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. And David my servant shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Yaakov my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt. So the ones that get the land, and they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant. Interesting. Wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever, and my servant David shall be their prince forever. Now, that's the anointed prince in Ezekiel 45 in the next temple, and he comes from the line of David. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. Yeshua is the peace offering. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. So he puts the next temple in the midst of us forevermore. It says, my tabernacle also shall be with them. Well, we get the tabernacle too. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, Jehovah, do sanctify or make holy Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So God places or puts or sets the next temple amongst us, and then the heathen know that God made us holy. It made Israel holy. So if this temple was built by rabbis, it would make no sense. Why would the heathen think that God made us holy if a bunch of rabbis built the temple? They wouldn't pay attention to it. But if it came down from heaven, then they would think that Israel has been made holy. And that's the house made without human hands. Okay? So we don't have to concern ourselves overly with who's Manasseh, who's Ephraim, who's Jacob, who's Joseph, because they all become one. And you read Ezekiel 48, it shows you the boundaries of the land for the 12 tribes. So you get the names of the 12 tribes there. It's not hard. People don't usually know what tribe they're from unless they were raised as Jews, Israelites. So God's going to have to work that out somehow, but nothing's too hard for the Lord. So just kick back and let it happen. You don't have to do much about it, you know. Let me see what's not right in the chat, if anything. When they call me grandpa, I just get rid of them. Those are not serious people. Okay, chat's all right. Let me go back into my notes, and there was another verse I wanted to cover. Verse 14. Ezekiel 37:14. We started in 15, so we're backing up a little bit. And this is talking about the dry bones. I'll go back to verse 13. And you shall know that I am Jehovah when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up out of your graves. Now, I know we could all say that church people are really in graves. Sepulchres was, I think, the word in the Greek Yeshua used, referencing Sadducees and Pharisees. It would apply to them. But that's not the point, because they don't come out of it. Anyway, it's Israel here. And shall put my spirit in you, and you shall live. Putting the spirit in them we see in Zechariah 12:10. Oh, no, that's not the dead ones. No, that's different. And shall put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I shall place you in your own land. And that's the same word for the dirt or the earth. So this is not New Jerusalem. I seriously doubt New Jerusalem would land on the earth. 1,500 miles wide, 1,500 miles long, 1,500 miles high. There would be no land of Israel. There'd be no crops. There'd be no people there. Would just take it all over. Anybody there would get crushed. So I believe it comes over Mount Zion, which God, I believe, is going to rebuild. And there's probably a bridge or a walkway or a path to get up there, or something like that. Shall you know that I, the Lord, have spoken it and performed it, saith Jehovah. So it says, place you in your own land. Now, the other scripture that would explain why New Jerusalem is not landing on the earth is in Revelation 22:15, which I'll read. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. So that's without New Jerusalem. See, it goes back one verse, verse 14, it says, blessed are they that do his commandments. That's the law. What do you think it is? That they may have right to, they might have right to enter, they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. So if you're entering in from outside the gates, and New Jerusalem's 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles width and length, how does that work? It doesn't work well, you know? So I don't think it actually alights on the earth. Okay? Alight means land or touchdown on the earth. I don't think it does that. Because it doesn't make sense to a bunch of other scriptures if it does, but, you know. All right. On the Mount of Transfiguration, we see a glorified Elijah and a Moses. Let me find that verse for you. I think it's Matthew 17:1. It's not there. Matthew 17:1. And after 6 days, Yeshua taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bringeth them up unto a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them, and his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elijah talking with him. See, something's unusual about Yeshua, okay? His face did shine. Okay, anyway, let's keep going. There appeared unto him Moses and Elijah talking with him. Then answered Peter and said unto Yeshua, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for thee, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud, which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased, hear you him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell one another on their face, and were sore afraid. So apparently Moses and Elijah came down from heaven. Elijah went up to heaven on a whirlwind when the chariot came down. He went actually up on a whirlwind, not actually in a chariot. And Moses died. And Yeshua says only those that go up to heaven, only those that come down from heaven can go up to heaven. So they were both, Moses and Elijah were both from heaven. And people don't grasp that about Moses. But he's not one of the two witnesses. They die. Moses died already. It's elected unto man to die only once. So it's not Moses. But I doubt that they would come out of Abraham's bosom. That I know doesn't make sense. How Peter knew who they were doesn't make sense to me either, because the Spirit would have to tell him, because he didn't know what these guys looked like. They were before his time. So that's the only way I would sense that. So Elijah would be coming back in a different body than that body that appeared on the mountain. I believe. I could be wrong. It might be the same, but it comes back in an earthly body. He's born again here through an earthly mother and father. And he has to be from within Israel. And he also needs to be a Levite, and within the Levites, a descendant of Aaron, a Kohanim, and within those, he needs to be a son of Zadok. So he could go into the inside of the temple and be with the anointed prince if need be, and things like that. And we could say he has the spirit of Elijah, but I think it's more than that. Okay. It's hard for me to kind of lay it all out, but you see, they get killed. The Apostle John, one of the witnesses, and Elijah, the other one, both get killed, and then they rise from the dead. So again, it's elected unto man to die only once. So their flesh dies, they don't die. But what kind of flesh did Yeshua have? Mystery, huh? He said he had the power to take his spirit out of his body and put it back again. Was Yeshua having some sort of everlasting life when he was here on earth? Probably, because he was birthed of the Holy Spirit and a flesh woman. Be hard to imagine that was not the case. Yeah, he grew up, but people with everlasting life will grow up. So how is he able to die? He said he has the power to take his spirit and put it back again. Let me find you that verse. And that's not normal. This thing keeps. I think we're in John 10:18. No man, wait, let's go back to 17. Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. So he's saying he puts down his life and takes it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father. So I would think he had eternal life. And I think the two witnesses will have something like that too. We'll go to Revelation 11. What verse? Maybe 9. It's verse 7, Romans 11:7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. See, John has been around almost 2,000 years, or something like 2,000 years. And then he dies. But how do you live 2,000 years? Well, Noah lived over 962 or something like that, but that's not 2,000. To be running around Israel, which is where he is, he probably needs to have the ability, like Yeshua, when he wanted to walk through a crowd, he just, I don't know, made himself invisible. He had other times changed his appearance to the disciples so they didn't know who he was, and then changed it back and walked through walls, doors, walls. So I imagine for John to survive here without any ID and bank account and stuff like that, that would be the case. God could feed him, but I don't think he would stay locked up in wherever he was staying for 2,000 years without going out. But what's he going to do? Show them an ID card from the Roman Empire? I mean, what's he going to do? So he has to be undetectable. I'm talking too much. Okay. Not really. And their bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified, and they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies. Okay, they watch the dead bodies. They have a party, they rejoice. That's when they're saying peace and safety. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them. Now, did that happen because they took their life back like Yeshua did? Likely. They're his brothers. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither, or here. And they ascended up to him. The God didn't say, I command you come to life. Now you know more than all the leaders of the churches ever did in 2,000 years. Okay, that's my pride talking, isn't it? All right, let's continue. If I have any more things that I wrote down. Luke 21:26. I'll just give you this again. Luke 21, verse 26. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things that are coming on the earth. For the power of heaven shall be shaken. And then they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Wait a minute, I gotta go back earlier to get oriented. Luke 21:25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. This is, of course, includes the great day of the Lord, but it could have other events previous to that too included in here, maybe. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the power of the heavens shall be shaken, the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. Probably the powers of the air, the demons, they fly around. And then shall they see, they fly around down here like where the airplanes go, that kind of thing. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So what this is telling us, when you see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory, this is not him coming in his kingdom with New Jerusalem. This is him coming as a sign of the Son of Man. And when you see these things begin to come to pass, look up, your redemption draweth nigh. And that's Zechariah 12:10. Okay. Now there was something else I wanted to cover. that I had it. All right, I'll look it up again. Um, Matthew 16:28. Therefore, wrong chapter. Matthew 16. Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now, when it says some, it's really saying more like someone, okay? It's a certain one. It's Strong's word number Greek 5100. It means a certain one, a someone, okay? They, of course, screw it up on purpose so they don't know any better. So it's really saying there be someone standing here, and he's talking to the disciples who became the apostles, standing here, which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now, the word kingdom is wrong. It's reign. It is power. So, the two witnesses will be here for that. That's Apostle John. But if it does mean coming in his kingdom, the word coming could be, does that word mean appear? It doesn't normally would mean appear, so this is probably saying see, he appears, the sign of Son of Man appears before God and Magog, the great day of the Lord, and then two witnesses get killed. You know, in the tribulation, the God and Magog era. So, this would tell us that when the two witnesses get killed, Yeshua is like coming down. And that's sort of, I could make sense out of that. This sounds different to me than Yeshua coming in the clouds, seated on the right hand of power. This seems like he's coming in his kingdom. Revelation 19. But then they lay dead for 3.5 years. So it's hard to really get to the bottom of this. Those are the basic possibilities in this one. So that would mean if it's him coming in his kingdom, then his coming is before the 3.5 days in the tomb. That doesn't make sense. So it must be seeing him in the clouds. That's what it should be. Okay. Let's see what the chat's telling us if we got problems there. What's my thought on weed? If you're not going to get drunk on liquor, why would you think it's okay to get bombed on weed? Okay, I think I covered what I was going to try to today. It was just a different plethora of topics. We'll talk about Israel. What I think I've been shown is that Netanyahu is trying to get Iran and Israel into a war. Okay? Biden is a complete jerk to start with, I think. And he's mentally ill, in my opinion. And I don't think now he knows what he's doing. He's so confused and bewildered and scared. He doesn't know which shoe's going to drop next. North Korea, China, Taiwan, and Japan, Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine, and NATO countries, and Finland, and Lithuania, and Latvia, and Moldova, and he doesn't know what to do. And the Middle East, and he's just confused. And he sort of softly threatened Iran when it was either Blinken or Jake Sullivan told them the other day that, oh, we didn't have any prior knowledge of the attack on your consulate, and what did we have anything to do with it? And Iran said, no, they did. And had one of their proxies attack a base in Syria. And America did nothing about it. That was Iran taking the temperature of America again to see how far they can bully them. And America is afraid to do anything. And that's why they didn't do anything. They knocked out a couple of missiles or something yesterday in Yemen, and they sitting there touting what a great victory it is. For crying out loud, they have an aircraft carrier there with about 4 warships escorting it, and they knocked out some pathetic missiles the Houthis had, and they're taking the prize for that. See, Biden is completely dumbified, and he figures if he bears down on Israel, he's safe because Israel's not going to rise up and attack America, and he's right. But he doesn't fear God, and that's his end times mistake. That'll be the end of him eternally. Don't expect him to understand anything like that, because he's not going to. He's under a delusion. So he tries leaning on Israel to stop the war, hoping the Iranian proxies stop the Houthis in particular with the Red Sea, which has him quite perturbed because they're interfering with shipping around the world. And he's catching heat for supporting Israel with weapons. And he's worried more about his election than he is God or Israel. It's not working. Netanyahu sees through him. He sees he's a gutless wonder and won't do anything. So he stands up to him, and then he goes further and attacks that consulate in Iran, thinking, in Syria, that belongs to Iran, thinking that Iran will retaliate against America, and he was correct. Netanyahu is a deep, dark, sinister, evil character, and he's very good at doing evil. He's a zero at doing anything good or righteousness. He's all about deceit, lies, subterfuge, backstabbing, and everything else. Okay? So, if you're going to dance with Netanyahu, Netanyahu ain't going to change you, well, or you'll run away from him. So, he is, okay, first of all, the eclipse happened, and what happened? Nothing. I told you nothing would happen. I think today is the end of Ramadan, and I don't expect, something might flare up. It just might. Could happen. Iran did not attack Israel with drones and missiles from Iran. Forget that. Can they do that from Syria? They can, but then Syria is going to pay such a price for it that Iran has no ability to prevent. I mean, Bashar Assad's palace could go if he tries that, and his military headquarters, and his government headquarters, and many other things. Damascus shall be a ruinous heap type things. So all kinds of bad stuff can happen to Syria for doing that. So I'm not so sure Syria wants to do that. Not very many countries at all want to go lay their life down for Iran. Look at what happened to Hamas. Right? So we don't see the Houthis doing it. We don't see Hezbollah doing it. We don't see the Iraq and Syrian militias in Syria doing it. I don't think we're going to. So Iran will wait as time goes by and then find one of our consulates and embassies and attack it somehow and then say, hey, we got even with them. That's what you're probably going to see. But Netanyahu is hard at work trying to figure out how he can get America and Iran into a war, which will help Israel because it will weaken Iran, and it would have to weaken their ability to support their proxies. How Netanyahu does this, I don't know, but I'm sure he's striving to go there. If Iran does anything to us, we're going to retaliate and do something bad to them again. We're probably going to do it anyway. Netanyahu for years has been telling the UN and America and everybody else that you got to cut the head off the snake. And lately they took to using the term cut the tentacles off the octopus, Iran being the octopus. And Iran controlling, to a great extent, Syria, the Houthis in Yemen, the Hamas in Gaza, and the Hezbollah in Lebanon. And Netanyahu's been for a long time saying the only way to deal with this is to strike the motherlode of Iran, and then they'll stop. They don't care what you do to their proxies. And he's right. So he started striking Iran, and he's going to continue it if Iran keeps pressuring these proxies to come after us. So Iran told America, well, we won't attack Israel if you get Israel to permanently leave Gaza. And of course that didn't happen. Netanyahu made an announcement yesterday or last night that he said not only are we going to attack Rafah, but we have a date. He wouldn't didn't tell us the date, but they got one picked out. The troops are being sent for R&R. There's many troops that are stationed about a kilometer or a half a kilometer outside Gaza in Israel territory, just resting, taking it easy. They haven't been sent home. So they're, what are they doing? They're on their computers, they're on their cell phones, they're probably drinking beer a little bit here and there, probably not enough to get bombed, and they're eating good hot meals that the military's bringing down. They probably have showers set up and they're rotating their clothes, taking their uniforms and cleaning them and giving them fresh uniforms, fresh boots, whatever, getting all their equipment up to speed, and letting them have a good rest, which takes a few days till they unwind. The bare bones minimum would be 3 days, probably a week or 10 days would really do it. And, they bounce back. They're getting showers, they're comfortable, the weather's not excessively hot or anything. And, they're eating good, they're hanging out with each other, they're chewing the fat, kibitzing, they would say. And then it's going to come briefings on what to expect in Rafah. And then it'll start in Rafah, but it's not going to start until there's an evacuation, which is going to take some days and it hasn't begun yet. So the troops are still going to be, resting up. So they're going to be thoroughly rested when they go in. And the enemy troops in Rafah will not be this way. They're under great stress. They still got troops, thousands of troops there. We're giving them air attacks and stuff. They're not resting. They're not happy. They're not content. They're not relaxed. Okay, our troops are. If something happens, our troops are something like a few blocks outside of Gaza. They could be on the scene in minutes. Literally minutes, like, under 10 minutes, or maybe 15 or 20 minutes maximum to get vehicles and bring them in. So if they were home, it would take many hours for them to reassemble. That's why they're not sent home. But here, they could just bounce right up. They could literally run in. But if they have to go to different parts of Gaza, they would need transportation. But they're all up and down Gaza. So there's no chance of infiltration from Gaza unless they want to try to walk through tens of thousands of troops that are going to blow their brains out. I would say Rafah's got to be at least a week or 10 days anyway off, because they haven't begun the evacuation yet. So first there'll be evacuation, and then the tanks will roll in, the armored personnel carriers, armored Humvee type things, and lots of helicopters and planes for air cover. And they'll go in. When they go into Rafah, that will be the final end of any militarization of Hamas in Gaza. That's the end of ends. Okay? I would say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, Israel has every intention of keeping soldiers in place in Gaza indefinitely. Probably Initially, I would say 10 or 15,000 minimum, and eventually it might drop down to 4 or 5,000, 6,000, something like that. They'll build semi-temporary barracks for them, which would probably be tents with electricity and wood floors, where they might have prefab housing. They'll have something nice for them, where they have showers and have internet and electric heat and air conditioning. And they'll, put in gun control. They're not going to let these crackpots walk around with RPGs and AK-47s. So anybody running around with a gun is going to be in a lot of trouble. There won't be any missile launches. There'll be almost probably a long time of searching for weapons and blowing tunnels up. And it's not going to matter too much who the heck they put in charge of the government over there. They're going to definitely make provisions to stop any tunnels coming in from Egypt. They'll just do that on the Gaza side. They don't need Egypt's permission. And there's a strong move to occupy Gaza again, like the West Bank. So that would mean that Jewish settlements would be created, and Jews would get land for dirt cheap prices or nothing. Then they'd need a house with a bomb shelter, and then set up communities with security and fences, and live there and work there. That'll be the last straw for Biden and or the Muslim nations when we resettle it. See, they keep trying to pull out of this in a way that will let them perpetrate a lie that they won, which they didn't. So one of the ways to perpetrate this lie is to retain the hostages, because that makes it look like to them and people that aren't real astute and people that want to believe it, it makes it look like they won. They didn't win. So they don't want to give the hostages back. Okay? The latest ceasefire demands from them was a full, forever withdrawal of the troops from Gaza. And letting them resettle wherever they want. So they want to get the guys in Rafah that are in Hamas to get back up in the north and the center, repopulate it, reorganize it, and start fighting Israel again in a matter of days. To make it look like they won. And we're not going to do that. No mention of hostage release. And they want us to release thousands of prisoners from the Israeli jails who are just going to work their way back down to Gaza and join Hamas. So they can pick up 5,000 members. Hamas said the peace treaty is dead. Israel said it's dead. This was yesterday. It's dead. Netanyahu said the only way to get a ceasefire from them is to go into Rafah, because they don't want to see that. But they also wanted immunity for everybody that took part in the October 7th massacre. and I assume also killing of the hostages and raping them. So their demands are rather absurd. So when Netanyahu's thinking, well, he's a dark character. Let's go in there and kill a bunch of them, break them up, worse. Hamas will get scared, and we'll bring them to their knees. But he sees the only way to get a peace deal out of them is to bring them to their knees. I don't think it'll ever work. Oh, we'll bring them to their knees, but they're never going to surrender. As the battle in Rafah progresses, hundreds of them will surrender, and many will get killed. Maybe one or 2,000 will surrender. They have no chance of winning. Nobody's coming to their aid. And Netanyahu sees the only really good thing to do now is to have America fight Iran. America won't fight Lebanon, and Lebanon won't attack America, but Iran and her proxies sure do. Now, somebody's playing with the rebel forces in Syria that don't like Bashar Assad, and they're attacking the Iranians there in massive amounts and killing them and everything. So that's going to bear heavy on Iran too. Biden has beaucoup problems with the Red Sea closure by the Houthis. He has beaucoup problems by not being able to shut the Houthis down, even though they did, 50 or 100 bombing runs. And he has beaucoup problems with his image that the Iraqi and Syrian militias in Syria have attacked his bases about 100 times. American bases in Syria. And in Iraq, and consulates and embassies and everything else, and he does nothing about it. He's too dumb to realize that when you do nothing about it with these crazy terrorists, they just come back at you harder. It has the opposite effect. It doesn't help, it makes it worse. If the Pentagon manages to convince Biden of it, then they'll attack Iran. In the meantime, Iran gets annoyed enough, the sleeper agents in America may get deployed. It says in the scriptures that God's going to destroy all our enemies, and Iran's an enemy of ours, so we may as well come to grips with the fact they're going to get whacked. And Israel may have a hand in it too. Netanyahu would be very fast to tell Biden, we'll help you, would help you. Biden would need an excuse, and he would probably say, oh, they're attacking our treaty partner, our ally, Israel, so we got to go fight with Israel. I would think America and Iran are headed for a fight, and Netanyahu is going to try his hardest to get it there. He doesn't care about Biden. In his mind, Biden will be a lame duck soon and of no value, just ready to drift off down memory lane. And Trump and Netanyahu get along just peachy. Oh, they get along great. No problem. But there's not enough prophetic time for it, so you're not going to see that. Trump is January 20th, gets sworn in. You're not going to see anything like that. In my opinion, there's no time. Okay, we got a prayer request for I'm trying to look for initials. I don't see them. So, prayer request for Aliana to find work. Prayer request for Aliana to find a job, or we could say find work. Okay, that was the one prayer request I have today. So that's what the state of the art looks like in Gaza, and Hezbollah keeps attacking us right by the border. They don't seem to want a real war with us. 70% of the people that moved away from Gaza because of all the missiles and rockets moved back. 30% are still gone. The ones up in Lebanon, which I think is over 100,000 now, have not gone back in 6 months. And there's a lot of concern in the Israeli government. They're living in hotels. I believe the government's paying for the hotels, but it's not the same thing. Not the same thing. Okay, that's what I got for today. I guess the last few days nobody liked my videos. I thought they were good, but I get nothing on the offerings. That tells me something. So I don't know. Maybe one thing has nothing to do with the other. I don't know. Anyway, please pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing in our finances, and pray for better videos, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. Today was a little disjointed on the Bible study, it will seem, but later on it will make sense to you when these events start to happen. It's important that you have at least some knowledge of, Yaakov and Joseph and Ephraim and Manasseh and all that. You need some idea what's going on. And I'm no super expert on it by far, but I gave you a good working understanding. And you know that the two sticks will be one in his hand, so they all be put together. And then you can go to Ezekiel 48 and see the names of the tribes there for yourself. So that's really all you need to know is the end result. Okay. All right, so I hope you got something out of it. And let's watch and see what happens to cocky, arrogant, boisterous Iran right now. Let's see. Okay, so we got 2.25 hours. It's about right, I guess. I'm out, guys. I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. I'm out.